I'm not going to be sharing the obvious challenges here, like failing exams. Not that I did any of that, but these are going to be challenges that I went through personally that are not so commonly talked about, but commonly happen. So not only am I going to share those things with you, I'm also going to share what my recommendations would be in hindsight, now that I'm kind of through that part of my life where I'm going through my own actuarial journey, trying to get internships, actuarial jobs, pass exams. These are going to be things that you can take away and learn from before they happen to you. So let's get into it. By the way, big shout out to CreekCrack6072 for suggesting this video. So the first challenge that I wanted to talk about was the fact that I did not have an actuarial job lined up after I graduated school. The best part of post-grad life, the endless stream of questions about why you're still unemployed. So this is something I kind of always assumed would happen. I thought I'd take the pretty traditional approach of going to school and then going immediately into a job, but that did not happen. And the reason for that was probably because I really didn't look for a job. I did have some internships while I was in school, and you may have heard of those on my channel already before, but those internships were about an hour and a half, maybe even a little bit longer of a commute for me both ways. And I did not want to leave the location that I was at the time, so I didn't want to have a job at one of those companies because it was too far away from what I wanted at the time. So I didn't really have that option to move directly into a job from an internship that I was at. And I was also, at the time, I was doing a lot of babysitting and nannying for different families, and I absolutely loved that. So even though I graduated, I kind of kept in the habit of just continuing the work that I was already doing, just doing more of it now that I didn't have to go to school. And that was great, I loved it, but eventually it came to a point where I needed more money. I was living in a crummy apartment. I had a boyfriend at the time that did not have a very stable job, more about that in the next challenge. And I also felt like I was penny pinching a lot of the time. On top of all that, I also kind of felt like I was stagnant. I am someone that loves to be doing something and challenging myself and continuing to grow. And that was not really happening when I was just nannying. I wasn't really using my brain power to do that, even though those babies, they do need to know how to do math eventually. But yeah, I wasn't really doing any of that. So it wasn't challenging for me, and that's something I needed. No structure, no routine. It sounds like a dream come true if you ask me. So I decided to start looking for an actuarial job, and I did end up getting an actuarial job not too long after I started looking. But the thing was, many of the positions are posted in anticipation that you're going to start working in them when you graduate from school. So there's a lot of that. I also kind of had this idea in my mind, whether it's true or not, I'm not too sure, but I kind of felt like the employers would all be thinking that I'm like the rejected candidate that no one wanted to hire right out of school. I didn't have the best GPA, as you may already know from other videos on my channel. So I kind of had a lower self-esteem, I guess you could say, in terms of looking for a job. I did end up getting one. It was an internship actually after graduation that did end up turning into a full-time position, but that doesn't happen too often where you get an internship after school. So what would I recommend to someone going through this now is to get a stepping stone position, at least if you don't have a full-time job lined up for after graduation. I've talked about stepping stone positions so many times on this channel, so hopefully you can go find some information on that. But basically, it's a position that's going to help you get experience that's related to the actuarial career. And although that means that you're not working in an actuarial role, it still means that you're building up your qualifications for an actuarial job down the road. Most people that do not have an actuarial job after graduation, like lined up for them, it's because either they weren't looking, which I think is fairly rare, or their qualifications or their resume just isn't up to the standard that employers are looking for right now. So that means you need to continue to develop those skills and make sure that your resume is the best it can possibly be. Resources for that are in the Actuary Accelerator community if you need them. But that's certainly the advice I'd give to someone now, is to make sure you are continuing to improve your qualifications so that eventually you will be well qualified for an actuarial job. Okay, so challenge number 2 was to neglect other areas of my life. Now, you might think that this is not related to the actuarial career, but it actually is. So when I was in school, I was also doing the babysitting, nannying thing. I was playing soccer a lot, obviously trying to study for exams too. And it was a lot. But at the time, I was also in a relationship that I was really not very happy in. I think at the time I was kind of scared to be alone, and I was just so busy doing other things that I did not put in the effort to end the relationship when I needed to. It was really scary to do that, especially when I was going through such a difficult thing. Because obviously the best way to prepare for a tough career is to make the rest of your life tough too. I think she's onto something there. When you go into your actuarial journey, one of the things you really need is a great support system. There are going to be tons of ups, but also tons of downs in your actuarial journey, and you need people there to support you. I did have that in other ways. Like, my parents were great for being a support system for me too, and that helped. But when the person that you are closest to, the person that you live with, is not really someone that is supporting you, it's not someone that is helping to eliminate stresses from your life and instead adding them to your life, it really makes this whole journey so much more difficult. So what I would recommend to anyone starting their actuarial journey now, or even if you are in the midst of it, if you feel like there are those people that are just kind of a negative influence in your life, people that are bringing your mental energy down and causing you to be stressed a lot, then those might be people that you need to get out of your life before you can really put all your focus and energy into this major goal that's going to be stressful in itself. Get rid of those other stressors. You don't need them. Before we get into challenge 3, if you have found this video helpful so far, could you please give it a thumbs up to let me know and to trigger that YouTube algorithm to show it to more people? I'd appreciate that so much. So challenge number 3 for me was being really shy and somewhat antisocial. Actually, a lot antisocial, because when I was in school, I didn't go out of my own dorm very often, except for like dinner and stuff like that, or if I was going home. I went home a lot, but when I was at school, I didn't really socialize with the other people in my program. I didn't really participate in the clubs. I didn't really get to know people that were in the same dorm building as I was. It's not really antisocial if you awkwardly hover around some people and hope that they notice you, is it? And that meant that I kind of felt like I was doing this all alone. And I can totally see how that could happen, especially for people, like I was in an actuarial science program. So absolutely this can happen for those of you that are trying to do this after you've graduated, or maybe you're in a non-actuarial science program, so you don't have a whole bunch of people surrounding you that are trying to do this. I totally get that that must be one of the most difficult things, to just feel like you are completely alone. You really don't know anyone else doing this. And that, of course, is part of the reason that I created the WhatsApp group in our AAC, where everyone in there that's going through this at the same time is helping each other and supporting each other. And just, it gives a vibe in there that gives motivation, because when you see other people doing those things, then you're more likely to do them yourselves. And that is definitely something that I did have going for me when I was going to school for actuarial science. I saw other people doing it, so that was really motivating for me. I just really didn't participate in things with them. I didn't do my homework with other people, and because of that, it took me way longer than it probably needed to. I also didn't tend to study with other people or talk about studying, because they probably had strategies and things that could have helped me, and since I wasn't talking to them, it took me way longer to prepare, and maybe I failed a few times too. So one of the most important things I think of going through your actuarial journey is to make sure you are connected in some way with other people that are going through this. If that means going into the Actuary Accelerator community and getting involved with that community, great. But there's other ways too. Actuarial science clubs at your schools. Even if you're not in the actuarial science program, you may still be able to get into the program. Or even just finding other people in your community, asking on Facebook groups to get connected. They can be so motivating and just help eliminate that feeling of feeling isolated and like you're doing this alone. Another thing that I think would be really helpful in this is to purposely push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I know that can be so difficult to do. I was so shy all the way up until probably about 7 years ago, I would say. 7 years ago or so, around there, I started doing these YouTube videos. And I don't know exactly what it was, but the fact that I am sharing things with you and putting myself out there, accepting all the negative comments that might come and all the positive ones too, like that is motivating for me. But there's also that risk that people might not like things that I say, or they might not agree with things. And just putting yourself out there and having the confidence to do it and learning that it's okay if you mess up. Nothing's majorly going to happen probably. So that was a whole learning experience for me, and I think it's something that would have helped me so much in my earlier life when I was going through my actuarial journey. And there might be things for you that you feel are holding you back. And I strongly encourage you to do whatever you can to purposely push yourself past those barriers, because on the other side of them, there's probably going to be great things that are coming for you. And yes, maybe that will happen 10 years from now for you, but wouldn't you rather have that happen now rather than 10 years from now? So whatever you can do to break through those is going to be really beneficial. And I wish I had done something to help me break through that shyness earlier on in my life and career. Okay, so remember at the beginning of the video where I said I wasn't going to include failing exams as a major challenge in this video? Well, the truth is that I failed a lot of exams and it was a major challenge for me. So if that is something that you are struggling with, or you just want to be proactive on preventing that, well, not even preventing it, but staying motivated after it happens, because it is almost inevitable that somewhere along the way you will fail at least one exam. So a little while ago, I released a video on how I stayed motivated through all the failures and decided to keep continuing my goal of becoming an actuary. So if you want to learn what I did, make sure you check out the video that I've linked right down below. Okay, thank you so much for all of you that have decided to stay to the end of the video. Now it's time to get to know a little bit more about me. So at the beginning of 2024, I think I was reading a book or watching a YouTube video or something, and it said to come up with your word of the year. And my word of the year that I decided on was organized. Now, I have probably been a fairly messy and unorganized person since I started studying for actuarial exams. It's just a coincidence that I happen to be recording this for my actuarial channel, but I do think it happened around that time, because there was a time in my life when I used to be so organized. I knew where everything was always neat and tidy. And along the way, when I started studying for exams, I think I had this kind of mental energy of like, well, I'm studying for exams, I don't need to worry about anything else. I can eat unhealthy. It was also a time when I started to not eat as healthy as I used to. And around that time, I just started getting messy. So at this point in my life, I've actually been watching a YouTube channel, shout out to Kaz from Clutterbug, and she has really changed so much in my life, because her recommendation to declutter your house has really freed up so much time for me and also mental energy, and I honestly think that it is helping me to remember things better. I think all the stuff that I used to have around my house, it was not only taking up so much space and taking up so much time to keep it all tidy and in its places, which it often wasn't, but sometimes I'd have to do like big cleans in order to get the house back into a reasonable shape. So now that I've gone through and decluttered a lot of my house, I'm realizing that I'm starting to remember things more. I have been able to put time towards organizing things and planning things, and it just feels so much lighter. Like I don't feel like I have this huge mental load on myself as much as I used to. And I'm not done organizing yet, so I think that this is gonna keep getting even better, and I'm really excited about that, because the effects of it have been really so positive in my life so far. Like you probably are as well, I am someone that struggles to find enough time to get everything done in a day that I need to get done. So this has made huge impacts on that. So if you are someone that maybe goes into your office to study, but you feel like you're dreading it already just by stepping in because there's stuff everywhere and you have to shove papers out of the way just to put your books down or to move the chair out from the desk in order to sit down, you really honestly might benefit from doing some sort of like 1-day declutter where you just really have to objectively think of each thing and whether you really need it, whether you really use it, or watch some decluttering videos to get your inspiration. I'm not the best at that, but get some inspiration from that on what you could get rid of, because it really frees up so much mental space and just energy, and I highly recommend it. So if that's been a problem for you lately, which it is for most future actuaries, maybe this is a place to look. That's all for today. Bye.